In Chicago, a sandwich is never just a sandwich. A stack of pastrami on rye, steaming and fragrant, is a story. It's a declaration of survival, a monument to resilience, and for so many, the cornerstone of an empire. In a city built by waves of immigrants, each carrying their own recipes for success, the Jewish community carved out a legacy you can taste, see, and walk through. These weren't just businesses. They were community centers, makeshift banks, and defiant symbols of life rebuilt from ashes. They began in the crowded, bustling enclave of Maxwell Street, where, by its peak, some 55,000 Jewish people had forged a new home. They started in the back of small shops, with recipes whispered from the old world, from Bohemia, Russia, and Poland. This is the story of how staples like corned beef, pastrami, and bagels became Chicago icons. It's a journey through the histories of families who fled persecution, survived the unimaginable, and poured their memories and hopes into creating something that would last for generations. We're counting down the 10 biggest Jewish family businesses that didn't just feed the Windy City, they helped build it. From legendary delis that became cultural landmarks to the real estate titans who shaped the very skyline, these are the stories of incredible dedication and legacies woven into the very fabric of Chicago. But this journey doesn't start in a boardroom. It starts in a quiet corner of Skokie, where a single meat slicer holds a story that history books can't quite capture. It's a story of a community forged in food, where every meal was a small victory and every shared table was a sanctuary. This is where survival wasn't just remembered, it was tasted, shared, and passed down. Chapter 1: Kaufman's Deli, the Survivor's Sanctuary. In the years after World War II, Skokie, Illinois became something unexpected, a haven. It became a place where survivors of the Holocaust could begin to piece their lives back together. And at the heart of this community was a delicatessen. Kaufman's Deli wasn't just a place to get a sandwich, it was a gathering spot for those who had endured the worst of humanity. Opened in 1969 by Maury Kaufman, a survivor himself, the deli was a hub of shared language, shared trauma, and shared hope. The aromas of baking rye and simmering matzo ball soup were the sense of a new beginning. It was a place where survivors, many of whom Kaufman employed, could find not just a job, but a sense of belonging. For over 30 years, the deli has been in the hands of the Dworkin family, with Bet Dworkin taking the helm after Maury Kaufman. She has fiercely protected its legacy, ensuring that the recipes, the very essence of what Grandma made, remain untouched. Kaufman's is famous for its Midwestern-style bagels, which are known for their use of caraway seeds, but its soul is in the classic Ashkenazi fare, the towering corned beef sandwiches, the comforting kugel, and the soul-warming soups. The deli's resilience was put to the ultimate test in 2011 when a devastating fire tore through the building. For a community that had already lost so much, the potential loss of Kaufman's felt like another cruel blow. But that Dworkin, with her mother Judy's support, made a defiant choice. They would rebuild. It was a declaration that this institution was too important to let go. The rebuilt Kaufman's reopened, a testament to the family's and the community's unbreakable spirit. Today, a piece of that history is honored at the Illinois Holocaust Museum. An exhibit titled "I'll Have What She's Having" explores the profound role Jewish delis played as lifelines for survivors. And there, on display, is Baby Bertha, the original meat slicer from Kaufman's. It's a humble machine, but it represents countless meals served, countless stories shared, and a community that rebuilt itself one slice of pastrami at a time. More than a restaurant, Kaufman's remains a living memorial, a place where the legacy of survival is honored with every single order. Chapter 2: Hungarian Kosher Foods, a bastion of tradition. Just a few miles away, another Skokie institution stands as proof of how food can preserve heritage and rebuild a life. For over 45 years, Hungarian Kosher Foods has been a cornerstone of Chicago's kosher community, founded by Holocaust survivors Sandor and Margit Kirsch. Their story is one of profound loss and unwavering faith. Growing up in Hasidic homes in Czechoslovakia and Hungary, their childhoods were filled with the rich smells of Shabbat meals, chicken soup, kreplach, and paprikash. After surviving the war, keeping kosher wasn't just a religious rule for Sandor and Margit, it was a vital link to the families and the world they had lost. In 1973, they acted on a revolutionary idea. At a time when running a kosher household meant a trip to the bakery, then the butcher, then the grocer, Sandor Kirsch saw a better way. He purchased a market on Devon Avenue and later moved to a massive 25,000 square foot space in Skokie, creating America's first all-kosher supermarket. He even trademarked the slogan, "All kosher, only kosher." It was a game changer for how kosher families shopped. Hungarian, as it's affectionately known, became famous for its quality, especially its sausages and hot dogs, which have earned a cult-like following. For decades, the Kirsch family, including their children Ira and Lynn, ran the store, ensuring their parents' vision endured. But time brings change. When the Kirsch children reached their 60s, they decided it was time to sell, but on one condition: the new owner had to keep all 40 employees, preserving the family feel of the business. In 2018, the store was sold to Orion Azula, the owner of a kosher market in Florida, who promised to maintain Hungarian's role as a community mainstay. Even with new ownership, the heart of Hungarian kosher foods remains. It's more than a grocery store. It is the living legacy of Sandor and Margit Kirsch, a place built on the belief that food is memory, and sharing a kosher meal is an act of defiance, remembrance, and continuity. Chapter 3. Selig's Kosher Deli, a love story on rye. The story of Selig's Kosher Deli is, really, a love story, one that began in the chaos of post-war Europe and found its home in a Chicago deli. Miriam and Selig Spun were both survivors of the Holocaust. They found each other not in their native lands, but in New York after immigrating in 1947. In a new country, surrounded by echoes of all they had lost, they found each other. Their journey then took them to Israel for 9 years, where they helped build a new nation while rebuilding their own lives. But their story would ultimately be written in Chicago. In 1961, they got into the grocery business on Devon Avenue, a bustling artery of Jewish life. After running a supermarket for a decade, they sold it in 1971. The call of the food business, however, was too strong to ignore. In 1982, they opened Selig's Kosher Deli, a hybrid spot that combined a classic deli counter with a grocery, perfectly serving the community's needs. Selig's, as it's affectionately known, was more than a business. It was the culmination of a life's journey. It was a place where the Spun family's resilience was on full display. Like Kaufman's and Hungarian, it was part of a network of survivor-founded businesses that gave the community more than just food. They provided a space for connection. The story of Miriam and Selig Spun is a powerful reminder that behind the counter of so many of these delis were people who had witnessed history's darkest chapters. For them, the simple act of slicing brisket or serving soup was an affirmation of life. It was a way to plant roots in a new city, build a family, and create a legacy defined not by what was lost, but by what was lovingly and defiantly built anew. Chapter 4. Manny's Cafeteria and Delicatessen, the political power lunch. If Chicago has a political canteen, a place where mayors, governors, and even presidents eat, it is Manny's Cafeteria and Delicatessen. It's been called the second most likely place to see local politicians after City Hall. Former Governor George Ryan remembered getting a call from Nelson Mandela while he was right here in the middle of a corned beef sandwich. This isn't just a deli, it's a Chicago institution, woven into the city's power structure. The story starts in 1942, when brothers Jack and Charlie Raskin opened the Purity Deli. After the war, Jack bought a restaurant called Sonny's near the chaotic Maxwell Street Market. In a move of pure, brilliant thrift, he decided to rename it Manny's after his son Emmanuel. Why? Because that way, he only had to pay to replace 2 letters on the sign. That son, Manny Raskin, eventually took over, and in 1964 moved the cafeteria to its current home on Jefferson Street. Today, the deli is in the hands of the 3rd and 4th generation, Ken and Dan Raskin. A 4-generation run is a rarity in any industry, let alone the grueling restaurant business. Dan Raskin is there every day, overseeing the line, a constant presence making sure his great-grandfather's legacy remains intact. And what a legacy it is! Manny's is a bustling, no-frills line where you grab a tray and point at what you want. The food is the star. The recipes are unchanged family treasures. The corned beef and pastrami are legendary, piled high on rye. But true fans will tell you about the noodle kugel, a sweet, comforting casserole of egg noodles, cheese, and a crunchy cornflake topping. What's fascinating is how Manny's has evolved. It started by serving a mostly Jewish clientele. Today, Dan Raskin estimates only about 10% of their customers are Jewish. Manny's has become a beloved spot for all Chicagoans. It's a place where construction workers, lawyers, and politicians all stand in the same line. That community spirit was on full display during the COVID-19 pandemic, when Manny's gave away 1,000 free sandwiches, and again when they offered free meals after a lapse in SNAP benefits. Manny's is more than a family business. It's the city's family dining room. Chapter 5. New York Bagel and Bialy, the 24-hour carb haven. In the world of Jewish food, few things are as essential as the bagel. And in Chicago, for nearly 60 years, the gold standard has been New York Bagel and Bialy. Since 1965, this Lincolnwood institution has been serving perfectly boiled and baked rings of dough, earning a reputation as one of the best bagel shops in the whole area. Walking into the shop on Touhy Avenue is like stepping into a chaotic and wonderful carb-fueled dream. The air is thick with the scent of baking dough, onions, and garlic. Baskets overflow with every variety imaginable, from poppy and sesame to jalapeno cheddar. Unlike many modern bagel shops, New York Bagel and Bialy honors a time-tested tradition. For a long time, that meant being open 24 hours a day, a beacon for late-night studiers, early morning workers, and anyone needing a fresh bagel at 3 a.m. While the hours have been tweaked, the spirit of constant production is still there. And then there's the Bialy, the bagel's lesser-known but equally delicious cousin. A chewy roll with a depressed center filled with cooked onions and poppy seeds. The Bialy speaks to the shop's deep Ashkenazi roots. Finding a good Bialy is a sign you're in a place that takes its heritage seriously. The business is a cornerstone of the Jewish communities in Lincolnwood and Skokie, but its influence spreads far beyond. There's a Reddit thread where Chicago food lovers track all the other delis across the city that proudly serve New York Bagel and Bialy's products. You'll find them at Manny's, which Par bakes them on site, and at Hellfeld's Deli in Wicker Park. This distribution network shows the incredible impact of this single-family business. They aren't just a local shop, they are the primary supplier of a cultural staple for an entire metropolitan area. New York Bagel and Bialy is a quiet giant, a family-owned enterprise whose work is the foundation for countless breakfasts across Chicago. They don't just make bagels, they make the bagels. Chapter 6. Ashkenaz Deli, the ghost of a fallen giant. Not all stories of great family businesses have a happy ending. Some become ghosts, their names whispered with a mix of nostalgia and reverence, leaving a void that's never quite filled. Such is the story of Ashkenaz Deli. For decades, Ashkenaz wasn't just a Jewish deli in Chicago, it was the Jewish deli, an institution so large and so good that it became the benchmark for all others. Started by Sam and Ada Ashkenaz in the mid-1930s in Rogers Park, the deli's history mirrored the northward migration of Chicago's Jewish population. A fire in 1939 destroyed their first tiny spot, but they rebuilt, and their reputation exploded. At its peak, the Morse Avenue location was selling a staggering 1,000 pounds of corned beef every single month. This was a food production powerhouse. The food at Ashkenaz was legendary. The corned beef and pastrami were central, of course, but so were the latkes, the kugel, and a cheesecake said to rival the famous Reuben's in New York City. For generations of Chicagoans, a trip to Ashkenaz was a special treat, a taste of the old country made new. The family's ambition led them to expand. In 1976, they opened a location in the upscale Northbrook Court Mall, followed by other spots in the suburbs and the city. But as Ashkenaz became a corporate entity, something of the original soul may have been lost. Direct family involvement largely ended with Sam Ashkenaz's death in 1985. The original Morse Avenue location, the heart of the empire, closed in the late 1970s, and the corporate-owned restaurants eventually faded away, with the last one disappearing around 2012. Today, Ashkenaz Deli exists only in memory. Its closure marked the end of an era, a poignant reminder that even the biggest and most beloved businesses are fragile. The story of Ashkenaz is a cautionary tale, but it's also a testament to the incredible impact one family had on Chicago's culinary landscape. They set a standard that is still missed to this day. Chapter 7. Milk Pail and Deli, the kosher evolution on Devon. Devon Avenue has long been a vibrant corridor of Jewish life in Chicago, a street lined with synagogues, bakeries, and markets. For nearly 3 decades, one of the key anchors of this street was the Milk Pail and Deli, a business whose story shows how the kosher food scene in the city has evolved. The Milk Pail started in 3320 West Devon Avenue, founded by Wally Bryn as a grocery and deli. In 1986, his relative Steve Bryn took over with his partner, Harry Friedman. Under their leadership, the Milk Pail made a huge shift. It became a strictly kosher establishment, catering to a growing and increasingly meticulous part of the Jewish community. This decision turned the Milk Pail into more than just a deli. It became an essential resource. For families keeping kosher, it was a one-stop shop where they could trust that every item met the stringent requirements of kashrut. The store became especially important during holidays like Passover, a time of complex dietary laws when the Milk Pail would be buzzing with shoppers stocking up for their seders. The partnership of Steve Bryn and Harry Friedman guided the store through a period of massive change in the kosher food industry, as larger supermarket chains began introducing their own kosher sections. The competition was growing. In 1999, after almost 30 years, the Milk Pail and Deli closed its doors. Its closure was part of a larger story of shifting neighborhoods and the tough economics of running an independent kosher business. Like Ashkenaz, the Milk Pail is now a part of Chicago's history, but its legacy is important. It represents a crucial chapter in how Jewish family businesses adapted to meet the evolving religious needs of their community. Chapter 8. Hellfeld's Delicatessen and Catering, the New Generation. The story of the Chicago Jewish deli isn't just about the past. It's a story that is still being written today. In the heart of the trendy Wicker Park neighborhood, a new generation is carrying the torch, blending tradition with a modern vibe. This is Hellfeld's Delicatessen and Catering. The story of Hellfeld's begins not in Chicago, but in Poland in the 1980s. That's when the owner's grandfather immigrated to Chicago, bringing with him a love for great food. He opened a Jewish deli on the city's north side, planting the seeds for a legacy that would blossom decades later. To honor him, his grandchild named the new deli Hellfeld's. Opened in a neighborhood far from the traditional Jewish enclaves, Hellfeld's brings the classic New York-style Jewish deli experience to a new audience. The menu is a loving tribute to the staples: hand-cut lox, comforting matzo ball soup, homemade nishes, and sweet noodle kugel. The sandwiches are made with recipes passed down through generations, crafted with what the family calls the most important ingredients: love and care. Hellfeld's represents the evolution of the family business. While it has a cozy dining room, there's a strong focus on catering and modern touches like online ordering. This adaptation is key to thriving today. And in a perfect illustration of how interconnected Chicago's deli scene is, where do they get their authentic bagels? From none other than New York Bagel and Bialy, of course. Hellfeld's is proof that the spirit of the Jewish family deli is alive and well, finding new homes and new fans, ensuring these cherished flavors will continue for another generation. Chapter 9. Kol Tuv Kosher Foods, the Heimish Store. In Yiddish, the word Heimish means homey, warm, and unpretentious. For over 30 years, Kol Tuv has earned the title of the Heimish Store of Chicago. Located on Devon Avenue, Kol Tuv is a cherished, family-owned and operated enterprise that has become a vital hub for the city's Jewish community. Kol Tuv was founded with a clear vision to bring the finest kosher products from around the world to Chicago. It has since grown into a thriving supermarket known for its huge grocery selection and one of the largest kosher wine and spirits collections in the city. Walking into Kol Tuv feels like stepping into a place where old-world traditions are vibrantly alive. But what truly sets Kol Tuv apart is its deep commitment to community. It's a place that runs on trust. The owner, Chaim Knoblauch, oversees an informal system of tzedakah, or charity, that feels like a throwback to a simpler time. It started spontaneously when one customer saw another having trouble paying and offered to help. Today, customers regularly donate money which Knoblauch quietly puts toward the bills of those in need who never know where the help came from. It is a system of quiet dignity and communal support that embodies the true spirit of Heimish. In an era of large, impersonal supermarkets, Kol Tuv stands as a beacon of personalized service. It is adapted with online ordering and delivery, but it has never lost its essential character. Kol Tuv is more than a market. It's a testament to the power of a family business that puts community at its very heart.
Chapter 10. Arthur Rubloff & Co., the man who built the Magnificent Mile. While the legacy of many of Chicago's great Jewish families was built on pastrami and rye, some built their empires out of concrete and steel. No single person shaped modern Chicago's physical landscape more than Arthur Rubloff. His story isn't about a deli, but about a real estate visionary who didn't just sell buildings, he imagined and built entire sections of the city. Born in 1902, Arthur Rubloff started as a real estate broker in 1919 at just 17 years old. By 1930, with only $700 to his name, he founded Arthur Rubloff & Co. and began building an empire. Rubloff's ambition was boundless. He was the driving force behind the development of North Michigan Avenue, which he famously nicknamed the Magnificent Mile. Where others saw a regular street, he saw a world-class boulevard of luxury, and he willed it into existence. His projects were transformative. The Evergreen Plaza Shopping Center, one of the nation's first regional malls, the Carl Sandburg Village, a massive residential complex that revitalized the near North Side. His firm was involved in hundreds of deals that defined the city. His name on giant billboards all over town became synonymous with Chicago real estate. Rubloff was a complex figure, brash and boastful, but undeniably brilliant. "I have the kind of vision and knowledge and imagination to do these kinds of deals by myself," he once said. While some debated how much credit he deserved, no one could deny his central role. After his death in 1986, his company evolved, eventually becoming part of what is now Prudential Rubloff Properties. But his legacy also lives on through his immense philanthropy, millions given to Northwestern University, the University of Chicago, and the Art Institute of Chicago. Arthur Rubloff's story shows how the same drive that built legendary delis could also build a legendary skyline. And in a fascinating parallel, the next generation of Jewish real estate titans, like Neil Bloom, who co-founded JMB Realty, would follow in his footsteps, continuing the tradition of shaping Chicago's very foundation. From survivor sanctuaries in Skokie to the glittering skyscrapers of the Magnificent Mile, these 10 stories are just a fraction of the history built by Jewish families in Chicago. These legacies are still being written today in kitchens, in boardrooms, and on construction sites across the city. What are your family stories of building a life in a new place? Share them with us in the comments below. We believe these histories deserve to be remembered and celebrated. If you agree, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the hidden stories that shape our world. The journey through Chicago's biggest Jewish family businesses is a journey into the heart of the city itself. It's a story that starts with the taste of smoked fish and rye bread on Maxwell Street, brought by immigrants seeking a new life. It finds its most profound chapter in the quiet resilience of Holocaust survivors, who, having lost everything, chose to rebuild their world by feeding others. These businesses, Manny's, Kaufman's, Hungarian, and the others, became more than just places to eat. They were community anchors, keepers of tradition, and symbols of continuity. And as we've seen with giants like Arthur Rubloff, that same drive extended beyond the deli counter to shape the very steel and glass of the city's skyline. And in a fascinating parallel, the next generation of Jewish real estate titans, like Neil Bloom, who co-founded JMB Realty, would follow in his footsteps, continuing the tradition of shaping Chicago's very foundation.